contentious issues. Yet again today, we have a very interesting topic. And to tell you more about this, I would request my co-host, the one and only Dr. Anil Arora, the brain behind E-Famdent, to share his opening preamble. Anil.
Thank you, Kumar. Wonderful day under your helm and with Santosh. It's really something which we never imagined that we would be able to complete the sessions before time. This is a first for any E-Famdent conference, I would say. All full marks to you and your team for doing this.
Speakers and the speakers.
And the speakers, of course, who towed the line. Well, a warm welcome to all viewers. I'm really pleased that we have had more than 3,400 unique visitors today, which itself is something which is unimaginable when we started thinking about this e-conference model. We were always skeptical with so many webinars going on. And, the feeling was that people are probably now saturated with so much of knowledge. And we were wondering whether we would get the numbers, but well, you guys proved us wrong, and thankful to all of you for being there today. It's my pleasure to welcome our expert panelists for today's session entitled Let's Talk National Education Policy. E-Famdent has been in the forefront of clinical dentistry, be it by way of publications, conferences, workshops, online and offline models both. It's been now close to 15 years since we have been doing this every year and in several parts of the country every year. At the same time, the academic part of dentistry has also been very close to our heart, as is evidenced by the presence of stalwarts like Dr. Anil Kohli, Dr. Mahesh Verma, Dr. Sabita, and many more on this platform who have graced the occasion in earlier E-Famdent shows and awards. They have been recipients of E-Famdent Lifetime Achievement Awards and Dronacharya Awards. In short, we are totally committed to the profession of dentistry. With the recent introduction of the National Education Policy, we thought it prudent to have this important panel discussion to consider and debate the final points of the future of dental education. What we want, what is possible, what is realistic. So here we have a formidable lineup of expert dental professionals to give their views, thoughts, suggestions, and advice. I'm joined by Dr. Anil Kohli, Dr. Mahesh Verma, Dr. Sabita, and Dr. Gunaseelan on the dais. My co-host, of course, is none other than Dr. Kumar Swami. Kumar to us, a clinician par excellence with a pulse on all aspects of dentistry. He is a periodontist, an implantologist of repute, a mentor to me and the entire E-Famdent team, and has been associated with E-Famdent since time immemorial now. He will formally introduce each panelist and take this session. Over to you, Kumar.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anil. Thank you for those wonderful words of appreciation. It means a lot. Friends, what a panel we have today. I say this with so much pride and warmth in my heart because each one of them, I'm so close to them, and they in turn are so close to the purpose of teaching and academics in our country. Allow me to begin by introducing the only lady on the panel, a very dear, beloved Dr. Sabita. Dr. Sabita did her prosthodontics MDS from GDC Mumbai. I recall the day when I entered college as a newbie, the first BDS in 1975, and I saw this lady, if you will, in uniform, because she was with the army and she was pursuing her MDS in prosthodontics. Thereafter, she went on to become the most sought after and loved and revered teacher in GDC for undergrads and postgrads. She went on from there to DY Patil, and she moved on from Diva Patil to MGM as the principal and dean, and now, of course, the director of postgraduate studies, academics, and research. She's a lot into research today. Dr. Sabita Ram is so closely connected with the thinking and the spirit of students that she always asks them what they want rather than giving them what she thinks she can. Today, on this panel, I'm sure she will let us know through her expertise and experience as to why we need a sea change in the field of instruction in dentistry. I move on and introduce my dear friend, Dr. Anil Kohli. Has been the president of Dental Council of India in 2 tenures. He also has been the recipient of Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan. He is involved clinically with his passion for endodontics, founder, president, and he has done yeoman service for the Indian Endodontic Society. He also has been instrumental into guiding many a youngster, not only in the field of endodontics, but in the field of dentistry and beyond. He is responsible for many affiliations of universities in India with those abroad. And even today, at the beck and call of any dentist in the country, is always available to hold their hand and guide them in their path. Welcome, Dr. Anil Kohli.
Thank you.
Brigadier Anil Kohli. I stand corrected. I must add that it's a very important prefix, and he's also an honorary brigadier. Correct. Thank you. May I introduce the ubiquitous Professor Dr. Mahesh Verma, Vice Chancellor of Indraprastha Guru Gobind University. And he also has single-handedly, brick by brick, built the citadel of the Maulana Azad Institute of Dental Sciences. And he has not retired from there. On last introduction, I did that and I stand corrected. He is on deputation as the Vice Chancellor today, because who would want to give up the wonderful insights and expertise of Mahesh Verma? Not at all at the Maulana Azad Institute of Dental Sciences. So he continues to advise them. He's a prosthodontist by specialty. And he's one person known to introduce innovations in technology, in thought processes, and intellectual properties. Welcome, Professor Dr. Mahesh Verma.
Thank you, Kumar. Thank you.
Dr. R. Gunaseelan from Chennai, an oral surgeon by specialty. And we always say that when a second generation dentist steps into oversized shoes, he has a challenge. But Guna, as we fondly call him, far exceeded those. He made sure that his feet increased in size and he fitted the oversized shoes left behind by our dear Dr. P.P. Rajan. And today he heads the Rajan Dental Institute for Science and Research. He's also closely associated with academics. In the field of implantology, he has many original papers. And in fact, in our country, I can safely say, the pioneer and the first to talk about zygomatic implants. Guna, which is rich expertise and a very skilled team, brings to the table today a topic which is so dear to him about international collaborations on clinical research. So with this panel, may I request Professor Dr. Mahesh Verma to lay down the framework of discussion, and he can do it inimitably as often in the past. So Mahesh, over to you.
Thank you, Kumar. I'm, really appreciate choosing this topic because, we dental folks or, those of us who are in the healthcare business, we never bother about, anything which is allied and national education policy, or what it used to be NPE earlier, national policy on education, is actually all emanating. And in fact, the professional education is just one of the parts of the policy. So this time again, after almost 34 years, the Union Cabinet passed the National Policy on Education, headed by, chaired by Dr. Kasturi Rangan, and a team of very, very empowered and very accomplished members. And, this is actually a very fat document. And I know, see, even for an average educator, it's hard for him to go through the entire document, but I just want to give a gist of this policy, what is this policy all about, and how the medical healthcare or a dental education emanating from this policy. This policy basically based on 5 educational pillars, 5 fundamental pillars, which is part of our constitution also. That is access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. These are the 5 pillars, foundational pillars on this policy. Policy is has been structured. And if I want to remind you that all of us part of the United Nations, India, including India, and you know that United Nations in 2015 they founded SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, and these are 17 goals, and the entire world is committed to fulfill these goals by 2030. And in these 17 goals, although most of the goals are intertwined, interlinked, but goal number 4 is, is education. And an attempt also has been made by the policymakers that to align our policy so that we can align with SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And, there's a hope that it'll augur a new era, a new, it will entirely transform the education at a large scale, and will bring, it'll change the entire landscape of Indian higher education. And this policy is not only about higher education. This policy, in fact, it has 4 components, 4 parts actually. The first part is school education. There's a very landmark departure. I would just like to mention here that in education, the Anganwadi or the pre-education, which was just before the school, 3 years of education has been formalized and has been incorporated into a school education. The second part of the policy is dealing with higher education. The third part of the policy is dealing with other education. See, in India, we have professional education, we have adult education, we have education about culture, arts, liberal education. And finally, the fourth part of the policy is dealing with implementation. How are we going to do it? Because it's very easy to make a lofty policy, and unless we make it happen, it is of no use. And you see, I think it was also needed because, we realized that today the education is the currency today. Anybody who's got education, he's rich. And we've realized because today, most of the countries are connected with each other mouse to mouse. And there is an entire change of perception today. Most of the countries today are moving from compromise to flexibility, from stability to agility, and from certainty to skepticism. That, so it's entirely, taking us in a globalized way. Now, before mincing words, I want to share with you that what is that 10 great ideas this policy is holding, 10 great ideas. And all education, professional, higher education, even school education will be emanating part of these big ideas. What are those? What is the departure from the earlier policies? I think the first great idea of this policy is that it is offering education which is a world class in a pursuit of excellence. See, suddenly we felt that we cannot have our education system which is being taught by earlier methods, and we want to go future, and we need to really change our system and make it more world class. And we need to be part of the global network. So our education has to be what is relevant in India should also be relevant in the rest of the world. That is one. The second thing is our education must be multidisciplinary. It was very good as long as it was, other streams of higher education. But what about medical? We are in a very tight compartment. If we get into medicine, we remain in medicine. We get into dentistry. These are very tight compartments. There was no mobility from one area to another area. So, and also this idea is multidisciplinary and liberal education. That means it's also blending, the STEM and medicine. STEM education, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These are very traditional group of higher education, and medicine was separate part of it. So it was STEM, and now it is a STEM, STEMM, where medicine or healthcare is also part of that. That is the second idea. The third idea is, I think there is a great need of regulatory reforms. We all know that we've been, talking about Dental Council, Medical Council, AICTE, UGC, and all these regulatory bodies. And I think the policy is eyeing that there should be a singular regulatory body which will be controlling, and there needs to be a reform in these regulatory bodies, because there have been many things which have been observed which has not been very supportive as far as education was concerned. The fourth big idea of this policy is expansion with quality. We need to reach all over the country, but at the same time, the quality, access, equity, inclusion, excellence, that has to be part of this policy. Another part which we were really lacking was the research ecosystem. Of course, we have so many universities, but somewhere again, our focus has not been research. And this policy says we will have a two group of institutions. One is a research-based institutions, and another one will be education-based institutions. So there are going to be universities which are entirely focused on research. So that's another great idea of this policy. The next big idea of this policy is faculty focus. We all agree that it's the human being, the HR, which is the heart of any educational structure. And somewhere, you've seen, of course, forget about government, but we are talking about private self-financing institution. There is no transparency as far as recruitment, development, the right environment, giving them, supporting them, incentivize them, not happening. So that is another part which has been taken care of this policy. Another big idea is change of governorship and the leadership. What is this policy saying? That we have to move to institutions which are autonomous, which can award degrees, which can grant degrees, which are autonomous, which are controlled by a board of governors. You don't need to affiliate institutions with an university. Either they will be part of the university system, that is like a constituent college, but they will be autonomous and they will be awarding degrees. I think a big departure, because we've been always looking for a third body, which is a university, which is getting into the degree awarding. The next big idea of this policy is academic freedom. Total, they want, it is you who decide what will be the curriculum, what flexibility you want to bring, what changes you want to bring. Earlier, everything was decided by a regulatory body that, oh, you got to do this and everybody has to do that. I think here there is some amount of autonomy. Of course, regulatory bodies will also advise or will also support and suggest and maybe direct. But again, it's up to you. You also have your own say that you can always restructure education as per the need of the hour. The next thing is funding is a big issue in education, public funding and philanthropy. If you look at the best countries of the world, in America, North America, Europe, the private, there are a lot of private funding into the education. But in India, it's always viewed very differently, that the private people cannot fund education. I mean, there has to be philanthropy. If they fund, it is like an enterprise. They are looking for some revenue in it. So it is, they said funding, private funding can be allowed, but it will be more of like a philanthropy and not for a business. Another thing is, finally, the biggest idea is internationalization of education. Today, foreign universities are not allowed to open campuses in India. Now, or Indian universities cannot have offshore campuses, abroad. So, with this new policy, there will be a provision that foreign universities can come to India and they can set up their campuses. So, how does it benefit? It benefits many of us, because there'll be a competition, and everybody will try to excel. There'll be a movement of faculty, students from one nation, from one university to another, and I think it'll bring about excellence. So these are some of the 10 big ideas of this policy. And if you want me, if there's a time, I can also tell that how we can connect these some of these ideas into our healthcare and our dental education system in times to come, or I can take a little later.
We'll take it later. Yeah, we'll take it later. Yeah. Thank you. But that was wonderful, Mahesh, because it always sort of intrigued us. Yeah, NEP to theek hai, but as far as like we always say, what's in it for me? So if a dental profession is looking, they would say, well, where are we in this entire fabric? So I'm glad you brought out the salient features. We'll take this up in our next segment of the discussion. At this moment in time, I would like to invite Dr. Anil Kohli. Having sat in that hot seat for not 1 but 2 tenures, he has his own share of challenges. So Anil bhai, if you can now come in and tell us as to what are the changes in the organizational and regulatory structure that you can foresee or recommend.
Yes, Kumar. Firstly, I must thank Anil and you for bringing out this beautiful discussion. And before I start, I would like to ask you how much time you have, because we would like to answer to the people also. So how much time you want to give to a speaker?
Please go ahead and take your time. We have a lot of time. Don't worry.
Now, coming to the point, like COVID by December 19, it came to China, and by March, it came to India, and suddenly we had a shock of having the lockdown. When the lockdown came, the first thing came to the aerosol, this and that, and the dentist was the worst hit population in the country. And immediately we had the regulatories and the things from the government of India and the state governments to shut down the practices or use the PPEs and change the method we practice. And it was a shock. Even today till now, many people are still not opened up and they're still waiting. Now, one, we have to realize, like, we have to live with this disease and we have to face it and fight it out. But unfortunately, nobody thought of the education. Now, suddenly by 24th of March, most of the colleges got closed. Now it's almost close to 6 months. And still nobody knows what is the way ahead. Now, you can take care of the clinics, of the patient, of the practices by PPEs, by taking the extra cares, by taking the precautions for the infection control. Now look at it. What is going to happen, what the system exists today, the classroom teaching, to the preclinical side, to the clinical side, to face-to-face teaching, and online learning. Now, what is the impact of COVID-19 on the dental education? The opportunities for the dental educator to modernize their teaching approaches using novel digital concept in teaching of the clinical skill by enhancement, online communication, and learning platforms. So these are the changes which are likely to come very soon. Now, what are the challenges we have and the impact on dental education? The biggest challenge is, in an environment where there are 500 or 600 students are there, how to protect the health of the students, how to protect the faculty and staff, ensuring the continuity and quality of dental education, ensuring confidence in health and safety measures, and keeping up with the guidelines. Now, it will have a dramatic change. Till day, we were not open from one college to the other college teaching. Online teaching, online learning will bring a dramatic change into the education system. How the clinical practice, see, dentistry is the one field where you have to produce or deliver, and you have to learn from the instructor or the teacher by hand. Now we have to change this system and we have to move on to the stimulators. Now talking about phantom head, stimulator, changing the lab is very easy. But if you look into the reality, is going to involve a lot of money to be spent by the institutions and the way the exams are being conducted. It will do very good for the profession of dentistry as well as for the students, because we are going to end up with a universal system of teaching and universal system of examination. Now, what are the solutions we have? Solution for school for re-evaluating and reporting and policies and protocols, all these things have to be redesigned. The clinical environment has to be redesigned. Virtual patient-based learning consisting of stimulating clinical cases to improve student skill in decision-making and diagnosis. Advancement in VR stimulator with the ability to provide tactile backup, which is very, very important. I'm an endodontist. I know how it feels when you use a reamer or a file. So these are the new ways. Even in the Western world, in most of the colleges, these facilities are not 100%. Forget about our part. So there has to be a drastic change, has to be brought by the regulatory bodies to come up at the earliest, with the new guidelines for all institutions for online learning. Online learning not only in the lab, not only in the classroom teaching or in the webinars or in the lectures, but it has to be in the preclinical as well as virtual clinic. See, I've seen in Manipal, you have one or two labs, beautiful labs, where they teach you how to put the drip, how to take the BP and all those things. The same way in dentistry is going to be very expensive because these things are going to cost a lot. But that is the future of the dentistry. Now this will open the, like you have 300 colleges. If you have the same system of examination online for all of them like NEET, the standard of education is going to change. Same way, examining the students, what sort of practical you are doing, what sort of exercise you are doing, what is the criteria, how you proceed, what are the ways out, is going to make a world of difference. And every one of us knows, because we are there for last 4 decades, the change is the only thing which is permanent in life. So same way in dentistry, it is going to be a sea change. Earlier it is brought, better it is for the future of the dentistry. And I request and I hope, sincerely hope, very soon, as 6 months have already passed, very soon we should have, and there are many, I'll give you an example, like there are many obsolete things, like take the thing of anatomy. Medical sciences or medical students, from 1.5 years, they have made it to 1 year. Same way in their dentistry, there are many things which are obsolete, which are not being practiced, which are not needed in today's dentistry. So they have to be taken out from the syllabus. And the new things, new inventions, implants, cosmetic dentistry, and lasers, all these things has to be made a part of a graduate level study. So we all people can recommend. Ultimately, the regulatory bodies are the final authorities to do the needful, and they will do. And very nicely, Mahesh explained about the government's perspective, how they are thinking of. But we being a very small part of the organization as a dentist, we have to look into it, because we are concerned about the future of the dentistry. 6 months has been wasted on the education. Now is the high time we should decide and come out with something novel and move forward for the future of the dentistry. And these are the only things you have to be stimulators you need, patient demonstration using video, animations. So many good things will come, because whenever these things happen, something evolves, and which evolves for the betterment for the profession. I think we can discuss further on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm always amazed, Anil Bhai, that you take up any topic and you connect and relate to the end user. In this case, we're talking about a student. Yes, they have their own challenges, and we will see how we can incorporate what Mahesh has spoken, what you have spoken in our next segment of our discussion. Please allow me to bring in Dr. Sabita Ram now, and she would probably want to delve into the mode of training, because she has been so hands-on in her experience and lifetimes that she literally has held the hand of a student and taken them through the uncertainty of the corridors and the darkness, and they have all emerged victors. So Dr. Sabita Ram, please tell us about what you have in mind on this topic.
It's a pleasure to be here on this particular forum with all the stalwarts. At the onset, I would like to pay my respects to my teachers, because today being Teachers' Day, and to all my students who have made me a teacher. So that's for all of you and also for my students. Why are we having training for our students in dentistry? The training is for making them competent dentists so that they can practice. Now, practice does not mean drill, fill, no. It means that they should be able to diagnose correctly, they should be able to treat correctly, and they should be able to have a patient who's happy with their treatment. But during the course of our training, what are we doing with our students? They're not coming out good dentists, but not as good as I think they should come out. The reason being, they're only running after their quota. They're only running after the exam. What is busy, they are doing what they need to do for an exam. And they are becoming very mechanical in their teaching, in their clinical work. Why is that happening? That is happening because we put them into the clinics in third year. When they have no knowledge of the subject, they have had few lectures, and they start working on patients. They have to do a class 2, or they have to do a denture. So they just start working very mechanically. Though there are classes taken at the chair side, but it's not enough. When I propose what we should do, I will tell you that how we can incorporate this into the new trends which we are going to make for our dental education. Now, what has happened in pre-clinics? I think Dr. Kohli very well said it, that we will have to change the pre-clinical way of teaching our students. We can't have the same things which are being done earlier. There would be a suggestion that we have more electronic teaching and have your simulators would let them feel the pain, the blood, and everything as we have abroad. Probably that would help them to treat a patient at what level. What is happening in pre-clinics, we are spending too much of time in making wax rims, but we are defeating the purpose of treating patients. Now, what is the suggestion I would like to put forth? The reason why I am talking this is that when a student comes in first year, he just goes through the syllabus and the curriculum and he wonders, what is dentistry here? I don't think any dentistry is here. I'm learning everything that is medical. So right in the first year, we should introduce them to the dental clinics where they will not work, but they will only observe. That will be shadowing. They will shadow a senior and they will have interest in dentistry. As it is, they've come into dentistry as their second choice. Only few come in as a first choice. And then they are just thrown into doing something, and they're preparing wax rims, they're preparing some arrangement, they're doing some digging on plaster blocks, and they feel frustrated in the first year. So if we introduce, it has been done in medicine, that the first year medical students are sent to the clinics to see what's happening. So if we introduce the clinics, just 1 hour in the week, if you're put, or maybe 2 hours in a week, if we allow them to go to the clinics and observe how the seniors are working. The second point, we put the students into the clinic in third year. we should stop the third year clinic. The third year clinic should be only observational clinic, not working on patients. They should be able to observe their seniors, the final years and the interns, maybe their teachers, and then start practicing in the final year. The next point is that when these students come, they come and start working. Do we ever tell them what is the problem they're supposed to solve? No. We tell them there's a filling patient, go and fill. Or there's a denture patient, make impressions. We do not emphasize on the diagnosis of patients. And this is what I've observed in the OD radio department. It is a post office. Open your mouth, go to perio. Open your mouth, go to conso. We are not putting our full efforts in the department where they should learn how to diagnose and treatment plan a patient. Now, this cannot come if we make compartments of departments. We'll have to put all the departments under one roof and have comprehensive clinics, integrated clinic, integrated teaching, problem-based teaching, case studies, evidence-based dentistry. Now, a student knows how filling has to be done. Does he realize that he has to do amalgam filling? Because he has to do it in the exam, he's running around for amalgam, or he has to do a composite filling, or whether he has to use a compomer filling, or whether he needs a crown. He doesn't know that. So when he comes out of the, after he comes out and goes into even his internship, in internship also he's not able to do because he is not trained to decide what he should, how he should treat a patient. So I would recommend that having this compartment clinics, as also your national education policy is saying, bring all the other streams together in one unit or maybe one whole university. So why are we not doing it? Sabita Dental College has this comprehensive treatment for patients, and that will really help us treat patients as a whole. So when the student goes there and he learns, he will learn how to treat a patient as a whole. Another point is the teachers who come into dentistry, they pass their MDS, they apply for their job, and they come to teach dental students. Teaching dentistry is very different from teaching any other course. Even your school teachers are trained. So I would request the DCI, if they can have some training for the dental teachers. The training is done at what level? Once they are inducted, then they're sent for a course. And that too, who takes the training? The MBBS people, not the dental. Very few dental people are having dental examples. So the hands-on training, how they should take it. What is problem-based learning? Only when we go for NAC, we have to do problem-based learning. Not colleges are picking up the problem-based learning. So we will have to have teachers who are trained. We'll have to make sure, now Dr. Kohli very nicely mentioned that all clinics have stopped because of COVID. Why did they stop? Because we did not train our students how to manage infectious diseases. So we should have a clinic which will manage these infectious diseases so that when a student goes out, he knows exactly what he's supposed to do. If he has a patient, we know we get HIV patients, we know how to handle them, but still we don't have isolation clinics. So with COVID, everybody's practice has closed down. And exactly what Dr. Kohli said, I liked what he said, is that we all have to get trained for what we are doing, and we are lacking in the training. Why do you think there are courses going on after they pass their BDS? It is because they don't know how to put ABC together. They have just learned ABCD. They don't even know how to put words together, leave alone writing sentences. So our profession needs to have more electronic teaching. That is, you need to have teaching through CAD/CAM. You need to have lasers. As he said, you need to have your diagnosis and treatment planning by doing a CBCT. Where do we teach our students? The student takes an X-ray and comes to you and shows you an X-ray and say, madam, he's got a cavity. X-ray is only an adjunct, but we fail to emphasize on our students that these are adjuncts to our practice. We cannot make diagnosis, and we fail in diagnosing and treatment planning. So if we start teaching in that particular way, I am sure it's not like, it will be like your integration, maybe vertical and horizontal integration, bring it all together. This cannot happen in third year. This can happen only in the final year. So right from first year, the student starts seeing, observing, shadowing senior people, and then finally going into the final year and taking up patients. Why are we emphasizing on taking up patients in third year? Just for the quota to get over. They just do quotas, but they don't know what they're doing. Another thing, when our exam is going to be differently monitored, like what Dr. Kohli also said, I liked what he said. If we are going to have a different system, now the past two amalgam fillings are still going on. If 34 years there has been a national policy for education, why the dentistry has not changed? Why are we having the same old things in dentistry even today? The students put it up. It may be BDS, it may be MDS. It should be more problem-based, case study, evidence-based. So to sum up, I would like to say there has to be a change, because only if you have a change, there'll be growth. And as he said, that change is permanent. And I'm sure the changes which all the seniors who are sitting up there will bring about, it will be for the growth in dentistry and for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. You know, for a moment, I feel like Rajat Sharma, Aapki Adalat.
I'm not that bad.
No, not you. The entire atmosphere is building up to a wonderful debate, because we want to take. Of course, we'll have this recording, and inputs from these discussions have to reach those powers that be and the ears that probably should listen more. And let's hope that we'll bring in a change. Let's bring in now Dr. Gunaseelan. You know, we spoke so much about the changes in our country. Mahesh alluded to the robust studies and the pillars of education and research abroad. So is there any way that we can collaborate? So let's hear what Guna has to say about international collaboration, education and research. Dr. Gunaseelan.
Thank you, Kumar. And at the outset, let me thank E-Famdent, and in particular Dr. Anil Arora and Kumar Sami for putting together this wonderful, it's a great initiative, I think, in COVID times. And I'd like to take the help of putting together my presentation on a small PowerPoint.
Sure.
Let me just have a slide share. Just give me a second.
Share screen right at the bottom. Green button.
Yeah, I got the green button. Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
You can see it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to, at the end, bring up something about research and where we are and where we should be. And it can be a little dull at this point of time to talk about research, but I think it's a very relevant aspect of our discussion today. And today being Teachers' Day, I think I'd like to just mention this part. You know, the last part, like, you know, it's like sometimes the teacher also pokes you with a sharp stick, and that's called truth. And research is nothing but a search for truth. And what is the relevance of this topic today in COVID times? I came across this very interesting observation from Professor Robert Love. He said when Sir Isaac Newton had to work from home, like most of us are doing or did for a few months, and the University of Cambridge was temporarily closed due to the bubonic plague, it was the most productive period of his life. And he used that time to develop his theories on calculus, optics, and gravity. I think you could not have had a better opportune time to get stalwarts like Dr. Kohli, Professor Mahesh, Verma, and Dr. Sabita Ram into the stage, because I don't think anybody would have had this sort of opportunity except during these sort of COVID times. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to come together and discuss something and see, like you say, if we can reach the right ears. As far as research is concerned, I think these three elements are there. The academia part, the industry, and the government. They all have a very large role to play. As far as academia is concerned, I think the fundamentals of research have to start there, the education part, including biostatistics. And like Dr. Sabita Ram said, you have to get to change the way we look at things and, bring in new topics, biostatistics, bring in, maintenance, bring in financial aspects of practice, which are never taught in our curriculum now. And then, of course, intramural and extramural exchanges. 1/3 of dental schools, world's dental schools, are in India, but less than 1% of contribution to dental research. A compendium ICMR research paper looking at publications from 1919 to 2010, almost for 90 years, had more than 12,000 articles with only 0.13 on dental research. So this is for us to know where we were and where we can go. And look at patents. If you look at research and patents application, we are definitely slowly coming up. Oh, this is the 2018 statistics where we have, applications of 50,000 and grant patents of 13,000. So we are certainly getting slowly to some place. And what is the role of each of this? The government certainly has a big role in funding. We heard Dr. Mahesh Verma say about how in the new education policy, we're going to have research-based institutions and education-based institutions. I think that's a great move forward from the government point of view, which will also obviously lead to more funding. Today, we have one official research body, the ICMR. And then we have to look at data. Today, data is king. We know that data is God today. Let's look at some history. In the US especially, the NIH, and then they created something separate for dentistry called the NIDCR way back in 1948. That was really, forward thinking. As early as 1948, to create a separate branch for dental and craniofacial research. And then later on, when they started looking at clinical dentistry and in a big way, they actually started this research network, which is the National Dental Practice-Based Research Network, which is basically collating data. All of our practices today, run on systems. And so it is so easy to gather data, to mine data. And that's the way we are changing. And that data can be, gold, or it can be God today. Data is king, data is God. And no other place like India to get clinical data. And I think this is where I think Dr. Kohli also alluded to the fact that we should start networking, we should start connecting. And when you connect, what we get is huge data from which you can use artificial intelligence and mine data and have clinical new sort of thinking. We have seen what collaboration can do with the Cochrane database. Cochrane database is today one of the most powerful research centers, research collaboration, completely independent. So they, because of being completely financially independent, they have the opportunity to do ethical research and relevant research. So they go by questions asked by clinicians and others, and then bring out answers which are evidence-based. So having given this sort of basics, what should we do? I think the call to action, the government should be, if they can set up an apex body for dental research, it will make a big difference. If we are going to be with ICMR, you'll always get a sort of stepbrotherly treatment, is what I feel. An apex body like what's happened in the US, how they have the NICDR, National Institute for Dental and Craniofacial Research, NIDCR. I think it's an appropriate time, and I don't think we can get a better group of people like what you've seen in this panel to push for this. That will make a huge difference. What it automatically does is sets apart a unique funding, because Dr. Mahesh Verma also alluded to the fact that you need funds if you have to do any meaningful work. If you have to do training for the people, you have to educate them, you have to have opportunities to train them outside India. So funding, it becomes a very important aspect of this body. And then government is one that can produce intergovernmental collaboration. See, for example, when we got into research, I realized there are so many opportunities. There is an Indo-US fund for strategic partnership for research, for medicine, for dental. There is Indo-Swedish partnerships, Indo-Australian partnerships. It's just that we are not aware of it and we don't know how to sort of make use of it. And if you do not use it, these are all funded per year and then we lose the fund. It just goes back to the government. So we have to be aware of these intergovernmental collaborations. There are a lot of such collaborations happening. What's the role of academia? Certainly, we need more people who are dedicated for research, and which starts with more PhDs. You have to have more people who are more trained to think differently, to think research. And for that, I think the fundamental thing is that they need to have a PhD. Again, they need more funding from support for the PhDs. And then more collaboration between people, between institutions, and between universities. I can tell you if you look at Israel, which is considered one of the innovation capital of the world, especially for medicine, Israel, Sweden, one of the things they do, I believe, they take a sabbatical. The academic people take a sabbatical and go and work in the industry. They spend 6 months just observing what's happening in the industry, and vice versa. The industry people come and spend 6 months in the academia, into our classrooms, into our research rooms. So we see a completely different picture of everything, and we get to learn from each other. So this sort of collaboration is what actually spawns a lot of original ideas, original research. And gone are the days when we can be isolated. We need to get into mainstream. And for this sort of collaboration is very important. And this was a very interesting study that was done from Manipal. And they have what's called this mentored student program. And you see that majority of the students agreed that they should have a mentorship program. Again, this was brought about by Dr. Sabita when she said mentorship should be an important element of education today. It is certainly, again, very important for research because we have very little previous research experience, exposure. So we need some very dedicated teachers who can take this to that sort of conclusion. Mentorship is very important. And industry will certainly chip in with clinical trials. I've heard Stephen Eckert from Mayo. He said India has got the greatest potential for research, especially for clinical trials. For phase 1, it could be difficult, but phase 2, 3, and 4, we have the patient flow, we have data with us, we have got connectivity. So this is a great opportunity for us as far as research is concerned. And industry can also be a big source of sponsorship. I still remember the indigenous implant that was brought out by CLRI. It could not have, seen the light of day if it had not been for the clinical work and backup that was done in Maulana Azad Institute of Dental Sciences, and a very good industry coming and backing it. So we have a very good example in the very recent past of how academia and industry came together and collaboration with the governmental agencies, the CLRI, which produced a very cost-effective implant. So we are in a very unique situation that we can plan this, but obviously it needs a collaboration between government, industry, and academia. And last but not the least, we need the individuals to do it. Ideas come from individuals, and ideas can be only 1% because that's only inspiration. It has to be followed up with work, which is 99%, and that is perspiration. So thank you very much for your kind attention. So I'll just leave it at now and then keep it open for further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Guna. Thank you so much.
Kumar,
yes.
I will add up with Guna what he said.
Yeah.
Can I take up or after you?
Sure. Please.
Guna raised a very valid point, and I would like to share with him a couple of things because, see, first and foremost thing for research is we must train our people to know how the research is being done. That is a basic point which is lacking, because I've been associated with the ICMR. First of all, let me be very honest. You are not being given the equal treatment like the medical people.
Yeah.
And you will be surprised. The last meeting I had, there is not, Mahesh will agree with me, there is not even a single research being funded by ICMR. They said dental, we have put it on the side. The last project which I saw, that was by cleft palate and which was being done by Kharbanda. And before that, one project which was the big project on fluoride, which the Dr. Rajan was also part of it, that was done by Amrit Tiwari. So the basic issue, what he raised is very, very valid. One is the funding. Number two is the how the research is being conducted. People have to be trained. And lastly, and not the least, this has to be brought by the apex body, because dentistry is not the first priority, neither for government nor for ICMR. So you have to make your field present in the society or in the profession and bring up at a body. And he said, like very rightly, there are various agencies, various companies, commercial companies, toothpaste making companies, Sensodyne, these all will come up forward for funding. And the amount of data and clinical material we have, nobody has in the world. Thank you.
Mahesh, 1 minute, Dr. Sabita. I'll just take a point. Mahesh, are you there? Can you show up? Okay, okay, Dr. Sabitaram, you may come in, yeah. You have to unmute yourself.
I think he very rightly said, what is happening?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. He very rightly said, and Dr. Kohli also mentioned that research they have to be trained for research, because I'm looking after that, and I realize that people don't even know how to write a protocol for research.
I agree.
Very rightly said. They have to be trained. That is one thing. Our faculty does MDS and they think that they are doing research. MDS is not research. MDS research is only a part of their fulfillment of the MDS curriculum or their thesis, and they call it a thesis. So that is not what we require. Research is very innovative. And why can't we take up research which is multi-centric?
Correct.
If multi-centric research is taken up, probably the protocol which is being followed in a particular university will be followed north, south, east, west. And the same research, when it is done in different areas, probably the results may be different for that particular material, or maybe that particular, say, fluoride or whatever it may be. It may be different. So then you can come up with your data and you can put it up that multicentric research was carried out, but the results were very different. The third thing is that why are we putting MDS students for research? We should have PhD research, where they will actually spend time in research. This is a naam ke vasta research. Maine research kiya. It is only researching of search what has happened. It is not research. They pick up something, another thing. Shodh Ganga puts up all the PhD thesis online. Shodh Ganga is supposed to have all the thesis of all the years online. Where our thesis is presented and it is approved, it is put on Shodh Ganga. But there's nothing like this for our dental MDS students, where they have to put their thesis topic online so that Southwara doesn't pick up a thesis from the north and does it in the south. It is amazing to see that even some people ask for a CD of that PhD of the MDS thesis and say, okay, I will do it in my department. It's so pathetic to see research. I think what Gunaseelan has said, research has to have more vajood hona chahiye research pe. More vajood. And I have a feeling that this can only happen if the private practitioner bought into research, because they are using a lot of materials. They do research for the companies. Why can't we take help of, they don't want the private practitioner to come and teach us because the college faculty feels that they are undermined by I always feel that if a general practitioner who is well versed in his work comes and teaches our students will get double knowledge, theoretical and also clinical knowledge. So that research can be of use to us.
You know, I remember when Dr. Anil Kohli was the president of TCI, he strongly encouraged part-time faculty.
Yes.
He said that it's extremely important that these practitioners after, of course, 20 years, 25 years of
Yes.
experience, they come back and share their experience with the students to make them more clinically proficient. I think we should look at that as well. Mahesh is back. Mahesh, with your exposure and experience of heading a dental institute, a government institute, do you think there is room for partnership between a government institution and a private institution? And you mentioned about philanthropy, which means that if funding comes in and if we have the combination of these, on one hand, the quality, I think, of academicians, faculty may improve, may improve. The key word is may. But is there a will? Is there a will to look at this? Yeah, Mahesh.
Unmute.
Yeah.
Can you come again, Kumar?
Yeah,
Mahesh, you were talking about, is there room and is there will to bring about a partnership between a government institution and a private institution to bring up institution and academic excellence?
You know, I want to tell you something, that this is a very important part of the new policy, where the gap between the self-financing and government institutions will be narrowed, and there'll be a single regulator who would be ensuring that both at the same pedestal. So that's a great move, because in India, we have always commercialized education. Education is an enterprise. And see, this is also one of the great ideas in this policy, that that the private education one will not be viewed differently. It will not be viewed, lowly, and also that gap. You see, bringing, although it is asking to bring in private funding into the education, but at the same time the gap needs to be narrowed. So I think, if it is if this policy is instituted in true letter and spirit, I'm sure this malady, or this this kind of system which is there, that okay, we are treating government institutions separately, self-finances separately, and there is a huge difference in terms of outcomes, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of many things that need to be clubbed and then.
Anil Bhai, I want to ask you, just like there are IITs and there are National Institute of Technology, NITs, okay? Yeah. And there are AIMS. In medical, we're calling AIMS, right? Is there room, and can you sort of think and recommend and structure academic excellence in dentistry of at least 4 corners of the country wherein it is regulated well, so they become real model of dental education? What is your...
This was thought of a thing, and as Guna said, there was a thing was initiated where we have a center for excellence, where we have the best of the research and the other thing. Another thing I would like to add, what Guna was adding, until unless you recognize the PhDs and make them more lucrative after finishing the PhD, and they are being recognized in academics better than the others, only then these people are going to pursue. Because, financially, if you are not better off after even doing 5-year PhD and you are being treated like MDS only, so not many people are being inclined to go into it. See, the people, those who go into teaching, the people who have this sort of attitude in life, they go for 5 years. But my issue is, until they well, and they are being treated well, and they are being recognized well, only then these things prosper. And then there is the ethical part, which is very, very important, because most of the time we find a lot of papers from India and a lot of research from India are fights. So which is another very, very serious issue we have to look into. But change is needed. These things are needed. PhDs are needed. Only then research will prosper. And PhD should be recognized in teaching as well as otherwise by the government or DCI as a special thing, not as the ordinary thing.
Yeah. So when we talk about newer techniques, Dr. Sabita Ram, of training our clinical students in the colleges. So we spoke about simulators, we spoke about haptics. Now, obviously, there's going to be a huge budgetary question around it. So do you think that we should look beyond the budgetary restrictions, and from the apex body, we'll say this is mandatory? Like, for example, I still recall there was an era, and Dr. Anil Kohli, I think probably had just taken over, that OPG machines had to be there in every college. And the private college, a few of them said, no, where will you get the funds from? A few government colleges. So today, a CBCT is a must. Similarly, if there's a mandatoriness, I'm sure they'll all come up with the requisite infrastructure.
Let me go back a little bit, right? See, when we came into the dental council, I'm talking about 2003, 2004, right? And when General Avasthi was with me, there was no specification for dental chairs. What I mean by say, you just put the numbers, whether they are made for the barbers or whether made for the dentist, and you just produce the number of the chairs and your college is being given recognized. That is the first thing we did. We standardized the equipment. Standardize the equipment. This should be the size, this should be the weight, this should be the attachment into the dental unit. And they became reality today. And all these industry has come only after that. People have risen like anything. Same way, fortunately, we have 80 to 90%, I'll say 90% of the dental institution, 85% are in the private sector. Now, if the apex body puts its foot down, these are the basic requirements you have to fulfill if you have to run the dental school. They have made enough money on the tuition fees and other thing. If they have to spend now a part of it, I think they can't get away. Government, I can still give a little bit of leverage. 30, 40 colleges, we can give them time to do that. But private colleges, in no time they will do. In 1 year, they will do out. And ultimately, you will see time to come. The stimulators and all these things are going to be the reality because we don't know how long we have to live with this situation. Because social distancing is going to stay for a while.
Dr. Sabita Ram,
Yes.
in your experience, you said about the practical aspect. And the very good point that you made was the first year students should be exposed. They should be shadowing. So do you have any unique path-breaking thing that you want to share on this platform?
Actually, I'll tell you, when the students used to be in the internship, they never knew how practices are run. So because we were going for NAC, I wanted to show that I am having the students visiting people. And I started sending a group of students to the factories to see how dental chairs are made and equipments are made, to big practitioners like, Sandesh, Gulabai, all these people in Bombay, to see how practice is actually done. So they see that, yes, dentistry is somewhere there. And they also learn communication skills, which we are lacking. Because students comes to third year, takes one big paper, starts taking the history. He doesn't know how to communicate with the patient. And communication skill, only if it is good, a dentist can be a good practitioner. So this is something we will have to introduce into our curriculum and make sure that our students, in first year, I used to put the students into the clinic. I have done it to show them what is an impression compound or what is an alginate impression. I used to send them to the clinics and make them see it. And then they used to answer the viva much better because they would know exactly where it is used, why the trace, if it separates out, why did it separate out? So I think if this is introduced right from first year to second year, third year they can come to the clinic and spend those 2 weeks with the shadowing a senior person, seeing how he's taking down, and like extraction, he's just put into extraction. He doesn't know the theory behind extraction. He does not know how to give a block. One small little, if somebody shows you how to give a block once, even I can't do it.
Correct.
And we expect our students to learn. How do they learn in one shot? And then we tell them, you did not see what I told you. So we will have to let them learn slowly and steadily, and they're actually touching human beings. So what Dr. Kohli said, simulators are a must, whether they like it or not. Private colleges will have to have simulators. If they can have simulators for doing your training on them for your CPCR, why can't we have, for our dentistry? I think it's very, very essential today.
Mahesh, see, over the years, you have been on so many panels that we have discussed. And discussion after discussion, we do not get to the point of execution or at least convincing the powers that be. May I request from this platform, and I'm basically a very restless soul, as you know me. So when we have people like you here, when we have people like Dr. Anil Kohli, Dr. Gunaseelan in the South is hugely influential as far as getting the decisions in place. Do you think this is the time now to come up with a position paper and take opinions, carry out a survey, and go forward. Unmute yourself, Mahesh, please. Thank you.
Yes, Kumar, I think it's very valid. But who will bell the cat?
Yes.
Question is, who will bell the cat? You know, in our country, we have a system where you know, those who need to do it, they don't do it, and if others attempt doing it, they say pressing into my domain. This is it, and they raise fingers at you. You know, if I feel that you know, this is high time that those who are, you know, at the helm for the profession, you know, let them use this corona to transform, reform, totally restructure, revamp,
Mahesh, you're muted. You're muted yourself. Itna josh mein aa gaye aap ki you muted yourself.
So that's it. And you know, because we are linking it to NEP, and I feel that there are 4 things which will impact our healthcare in coming times. And coming times could be 2 years, 5 years, a couple of more years. Because one, you know, our health universities are going to finish. As per this policy, all universities have to become multidisciplinary. They cannot be standalone universities. You cannot be just health universities. So multidisciplinary universities will allow mobility from one stream to another stream, and there'll be, you know, you can choose subjects, and there'll be a very interesting combination of subjects when you are opting for a course. So this is a good thing, which is opening a new vistas for us, for medicine, healthcare, and we need to go into STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We all can combine and come up with something different. That is one. The second,
Mahesh, sorry to interrupt, but I think your one more device is on somewhere.
Yeah, you know, I'm on another program also. Yeah, so.
थोड़ा उसका volume.
उसका कम कर दे यार.
ठीक.
Thank you.
I was thinking that one should not write 2 boards simultaneously.
ये मेरा को बताना पड़ेगा. Anyway, go ahead.
So I was talking about another thing which is going to change the canvas is internationalization of education. See, this is the best move ever. I feel that earlier I've been part of UGC committees, umpteen UGC committees. First question you ask, do you have offshore campus? It's not allowed. Today, if Harvard wants to come to India, okay, I know it's not good for some of the institution. They will you know, view it very differently. But ultimately, what is going to happen? Our profession, our education, that is going to be strengthened. You know, and even those who are not doing well, they'll have to pull up their socks to excel. Even they have to survive. After all, how some institutions have excelled and survived and others have killed, because it's a market forces, as Dr. Kohli always says. You know, so this is the second thing. The third thing is that the new policy says that there'll be restructuring of the colleges. Ultimately, colleges will be degree awarding institutions. They will be regulated by something else. They will be regulated by themselves. That means there'll be board of governors. You know, like we have board of governors for Medical Council of India now. So there'll be some top people who will, you know, who will change the course of, you know, the endeavors. And one more thing, Sabita was just talking about research. You know, for us, I feel that if you look at the top universities of the world, research is not only done by dentistry. Research is done by a lot of other streams, scientists, other engineers, you know, along with dentistry.
Yes, actually, that's the point.
Dentistry. You know, so it will open a two-way channel that they can come into dentistry, do research, and we can go and collaborate with them. And for that, the new policy says we are setting up a national research foundation, and which will be giving grants, funds, hand-holding, assisting totally focusing on research in higher education. I feel these four things not only will impact the higher education as such in the country, but also will percolate to medicine, dentistry, healthcare, and allied fields. So because, somewhere, although this policy says that the medical education will be regulated differently, I said there'll be a single regulator, which 4 verticals. Those verticals are general education, accreditation, all those things. But there may be a separate regulator for a healthcare. But all these things are going to be imbibed in higher education. And higher education, if you look at the policy, there are so many places where it is said that professional education, especially healthcare, will be integrated into the higher education. So we will be part of it. Earlier, higher education separate, medical education, healthcare education separate. It will be integrated. So, some of these things are path breaking. You see, that in India, even in dentistry, there has been certain milestones, certain events which have changed the course of dentistry. Dr. Kohli and some of us have been part of those path-breaking changes. And when you bring a change, nobody likes it. They abuse you. They raise finger at you. But ultimately, it changed the course of dentistry. Today, a dentist could become a vice chancellor because people view dentistry differently today. It was not so 30, 40 years back. And how it has happened? We have not. So many of us, our leaders, our seniors, everybody has contributed. And that's how we have reached here. So let us hope that this new education policy will also wake those who are at the helm of affairs, wake them up from slumbers and make them do something. It is high time we bring a white paper. White paper doesn't mean raising fingers. Position paper, statement paper. What is it? What is it today? And what do we need? If I was in that position, okay, what do we see? How do we do it next 5 years, next 10 years, next 15 years? Long term, short term, medium term. How do we do it? What do we do? Of course, when you attempt, you never receive 100%.
Thank you.
Make an attempt. Even if you reach 10%, 20%, some part of it, that's a great success. Unless we attempt, nothing will happen. So I think it's Kumar, very thought-provoking, and it's a very good signal that it's high time we come up with something. Yes.
Thank you. Before we wind up, it's just about 6 o'clock and we should stick to time. I would like come to each one of you for a passing statement on this particular topic that we have had today. I will start from Dr. Guna. Dr. Guna, if you can mention something about the importance of publication. You mentioned research. We also lack quality publication. So just a message from you.
Yes, I think then we are stepping into the area of peer-reviewed journals and those sort of issues and indexing and those sort of things. Certainly, but it all has to start from training, right from your first year of dentistry or first year of post-graduation. If you don't have a clue about research methodology or writing, you're not going to get anywhere. And certainly, today we have information overload, and to even get to what is the right so it's very difficult even for us to come and sift through the mass of information that we have. So to have a body that can sift through this, that's where I like things like Mayo Clinic or Cochrane, because for me it's already done by them. I don't have to go through this maze. I'll give you a simple example. Look at COVID. So we initiated a study on saliva-based diagnostics and use of mouthwash. We only a couple of studies that came from Yale and one place in Korea. So we put together a program, and today we have enrolled 40 patients, and we have got some data which is very interesting, comparing chlorhexidine, povidone iodine, and hydrogen peroxide. So this is original work, but to get it done, and then we had to do some collaboration with Griffith University and King's College London. So it all's working well, but it's not easy. And it's nice for me because it's very gratifying at this age, that you can do something different and, enlist some youngsters. But then you look for youngsters, it's so difficult to find people who are, qualified and trained to do this sort of work. But certainly this is a beginning. We can do work, and this is where collaboration with international people, universities will really help, because they have already gone down that path. So they can help us, handhold us, and then we have the clinical material. So nowhere can they get 40 patients in a matter of 2 months for COVID patients to do, saliva research. So we have to stand on our strengths and then collaborate. And I think there's a great way forward for us. And I think I come back to the very important thing. We need to have an apex body for dental research.
Yeah.
I think Mahesh, Anil, Sabita, all of you, please do that. Thank you.
I fully agree.
Dr. Kohli, what would be your passing message to us?
My passing remark is this: COVID has done not very good for the dental profession as in general, but for dental education, it has done very good. We were not able to change the dental education and set mind of the people, but this COVID will force the regulatory bodies, the government of India, and the set mind of the people, and dentistry is going to change for the betterment.
Thank you. Dr. Sabita Ram.
Yeah, actually, Kumar, we've had a lot of workshops on change of curriculum for MDS and lot of workshops we had in Delhi. I remember we had gone to Delhi. But what he rightly said, Mahesh, it doesn't see the day, it doesn't see the end. We just keep having workshops on it. That's one thing that we have to bring an end and have complete solutions. And I'm sure Dr. Kohli and Mahesh sitting there will be able to come up with something and put it across to the government that we need a change. That's one thing. The next thing is that because we're going to have different types of colleges in the same campus, we can think of getting patents. Because probably if I want to do something on a root canal and I want to suck that out without putting a probe inside or a rimmer inside, I will go to an engineering college student and I say, make a small little suction for me. So probably he will put his mind to it, and I can, or maybe go to a chemical engineer and say, okay, how can you do it for me? Excellent. So having all these different fields under one roof, sitting in the canteen, we can discuss things out and then come, because just lay talk and bring innovations. It's not that we have to go to a book and get innovation, and introduce a topic of research right from the first year. Just talk to them. And the students have more research-oriented brains than us when we have grown older, because they're so set in our ways. So these children can be brought up, and what publication, what Dr. Guna has said, publications, we are making them do publications, but they don't know where should they publish, how they should publish, how they should write a publication, even if it's taught to them. So they have to get used to it. Once they get used to it, I'm sure there is a limit. Thank you.
Dr. Arora, the final say, and I'm sure you have, the man with the think and the ink, because he has a publication today, the largest publication in India. Of course, we are talking about here a policy making suggestion coming from this elite panel to be penned as an article, Anil, if you will, in your next edition, which can reach the Dental Council of India. Tell me, Anil.
Yes, of course. Very true, Kumar. And I believe that with such strong, advice, suggestions which have come through from today's panel, I hope the right people are listening to this, and somehow these voices reach them, and there is something concrete done, as Dr. Sabita Ram also mentioned, that we not need to see conclusions. We need to see an end to these things, not just a procedure which is just going on, and when at the end of it we don't see any destination. So I think on that note, we probably take
also
this,
before we say goodbye to the panelists. Yes, Anil bhai.
But individually we may not, together we can.
Very good. Very good. That's a wonderful note. I must thank the panelists.
Each one of us in our own field in last so many decades have done enough. Now together we should do something so that the coming generation should remember.
Thank you.
Santosh has something to say.
Yes.
No, I just like what Dr. Kohli said, that together we can do it. साथ में जरूर कर पाएंगे.
Correct. Also, on this note, I must thank the panelists for the wonderful inputs. And that's exactly why I called us the experts crystal ball, because we can now at least see not only the beginning of the tunnel, but also the light at the end of the tunnel. A new tunnel which is going to be burrowed through and through, from north to the south, and of course, not to forget the wonderful, glamorous Sabita Ram seated in the center. Okay, I must also mention here to the viewers that our session, which started at 11 in the morning, has gone beyond the designated 6 o'clock time in the evening. However, the event is open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and the archived sessions will be available post 7:30 in the evening today. So if you have missed out any session during the day, feel free to log into the archived sessions. And we had about 4,000 plus visitors / delegates logging in today. That is huge. And we thank each one of them. We especially thank, and like Santosh rightly mentioned, we must thank Ganesh for the technical backend, which he has brought about seamlessly. It's been so smooth, unbelievable. Santosh, your comments before we end the show.
Thank you to all the panelists. Of course, the Dr. Anil Kohli, Sabita ma'am, Dr. Mahesh Verma, and Dr. Gunaseelan, all of them. And Kumar and Dr. Anil Arora, who conducted it so smoothly and wonderfully. And as Kumar said, that this is something new for all of us. And it is definitely the new normal. And we really don't know how many more conferences we'll be doing like this, sitting at home with a tie and shirt and maybe shorts down there. We don't know how long this is going to last. But then we should, I feel that I would like to thank our 4 main sponsors, Sensodyne, Pepsodent, Lusion, and Cipla. Because they came in, we had a lot of other distributors coming in, and without the money, we can't do something at this level. Even if it is online, it
is like research.
That's true, sir. So I would like to thank all the 4 main sponsors and all our distributors and exhibitors for participating in E-Famdent show. And of course, thank you to all of you for having contributed here. Thank you very much. And Kumar, signing off.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good.
One last note to all our viewers and friends. As Kumar already mentioned, the expo is open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And we would really appreciate that you visit all the booths and have a look at the goodies, at the deals, the offers, and the services. We've already got messages saying that there are some amazing deals happening, and it's happening quite seamlessly. The platform has been made so user-friendly that you will have absolutely no problem in chatting and getting the best offers available. So please do visit all our exhibitors and sponsors. Thank you once again for joining us today. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you, Anil, and thank you, Santosh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Dr. Kohli, Mahesh.